Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Running the Bases. I am your host, Michael Garaffa, joined today by Spencer Shehawk. Spencer, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to see that. Baseball is really getting back together. That press conference today was as theatrical as you can imagine, which was always a great sign when you don't have players reporting for spring training.
Yeah, it's a doozy. I didn't even get to watch the press conference today. I just saw the results of it, which I'm happy with. I must say, I'm pleased with the results. I think we're in a spot right now with baseball that it's really anything positive excites me. Like if it's positive, I'm happy. Like if we're agreeing on something, even if we disagree, even if they disagree on 99% of things, they agree on 1%, better than nothing. That's my standpoint right now. But it's just the two of us today. Both Nick and Ryan are out doing other journalistic stuff, so it's just Spencer and I, which is fine. It's totally cool. We've got this is going to be a great bonding period for Spencer and I. He's got his first segment today. I'm really excited for that. He's debuting it, so now all three of the other hosts are going to have their own segments, which is great. So let's get rolling. We've got plenty to talk about, though, because we're just basically talking baseball until you get into your segment. I might even have you just come up with a few on the spot for fun, just because, who doesn't love impromptu?
I did take improv for a few years, so it should be something I can handle here a little bit.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that I didn't know you were such a professional.
I was a theater kid for the first 2 years and then an athlete for the last 2 years of high school. Could you imagine that?
Those are typically not two things that go together.
I had the reverse Troy Bolton, which is that's
Yeah,
the wacky thing about me.
right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
How about that? We've got an actor on the show too, which everyone says in journalism school that acting is actually really beneficial to you when you get into journalism because you're used to being on stage, you're used to doing things in front of a lot of people, so really it kind of decreases those nerves. And I think that's good. I'm sure that's going to help you out.
Yeah, I'm gonna need it here, especially if I got to come up with some on the spot. So
Yeah, that's
I'm ready though.
good. Well, I'm glad. Well, first I want to talk about what you already brought up, which is the obvious thing that happened today, which is the MLB press conference. And again, like I said, I haven't watched the press conference or know what happened in the press conference. I just know that there was a lot of stuff going on, and it drove a lot of news. And this way, we got to really get a look into the owner's perspective because we haven't. Well, yes, we know what the owner's perspective is. Obviously, it's Rob Manfred's perspective of the owner's perspective, put it that way. But it's really the first time that both sides have had something like this. They've released statements, but there's been no press conferences since the beginning of the lockout. So what did you think about what came of today? We'll dive deeper into the bigger issues of what they came up with, but just in general, what were your thoughts?
Baseball will be moving forward. I think that's a really good thing when you look at the overall picture of the sport. The universal DH coming into play, and I like the draft lottery. If Major League Baseball, a sport that generally relies on its past instead of trying to hype up the future guys like other sports, like the NBA or even the NFL, with the draft, they try to really hype it up. They want to add more drama to it. The only way that they were going to be able to do that is through a lottery. And now that we have that, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how the specific details of that will work once it's announced. Another aspect, though, that I thought was really funny, and it was a quick point, and it kind of got overlooked through all of this, was Manfred said phones work two ways.
Yeah.
When talking about how the players, maybe they didn't reach out either. And I was never that upset about conversations not starting 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why this shouldn't take this month. It shouldn't take more than January, half of February to get this done. It really shouldn't, because you are keeping about 90% of what you already have done the same. There's no real difference in just about anything. So for Major League Baseball, though, overall, I think it's a really good sign. I think Manfred won a few points back that maybe he was getting some hate for early on just from this whole experience.
I'm thinking, obviously, from what I've seen so far in the lockout, from what the players have said, and obviously it's he said, she said at this point, I think a lot of it is. I'm wondering if today was more of a publicity stunt for Manfred, where he's trying to make people think that the owners, because right now it's pretty clear 95% of baseball viewers believe that the owners are at fault here. That's just the way it is. They think that the owners are the bad guys. So I think Manfred's job today and what he was trying to do was make it so that it didn't seem that way and that it seemed like he tried to flip it on the players. And I think that he did a fairly good job of it. Obviously, I'm looking at it from a neutral perspective, but I would not be shocked if at the end of today there were people that said, man, players are the problem here. And I think that 95% maybe dropped down to 99, maybe 85. And I think I want to start with the lottery because to me, the lottery is such a fascinating idea. And I'm so happy that Major League Baseball is implementing something like this. And we'll get into the DH after because that's we could do a whole show on that. But when it comes to the draft lottery, you touched on it a little bit. Major League Baseball has a very different draft system than any other sport. It's the most simple and makes the most sense in my eyes, where it's based on how you finish, but then it also leads to the idea of tanking. And I think first off, the first thing that stood out to me, and that's what I want to talk about first, the thing that really makes me happy about this is that the main point of the players wanting this is to prevent tanking and to prevent teams from doing poorly. This does that. And the owners agreed to it, which means that there's a little bit of a mutual feeling there that they want to have a more competitive baseball. And I like that. I'm intrigued to hear what you have to say.
I think that this is just part of an overall process that's really taken place since the last CBA. When I look at just kind of the history of what's happened to minor league baseball, so many teams being cut and Major League Baseball really putting a lot of money into college baseball and trying to make that more prevalent to the system overall, it builds a way that you're going to have less high school guys going and more college athletes going in that first round instead. And they'll be a little bit old. It's a weird system, isn't it? Kind of what they do now. Like you're going to draft a guy who's going to disappear for 5 to 6 years maybe, and they're going to say how big of a star he is, and then he does nothing for forever. Versus now they have a way that it's going to be this whole drama, and there'll be these college guys that'll be able to watch their season, and they won't be able to be. Think about Leiter this past year. He was like, I know where I'm going to go. I know what I'm going to have to do, and I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
per se, and that changes the overall outlook of a college player too. Really being like, I'm going to obviously go to this team. I'm going to stay the extra year because now I don't want to go to the Pirates or the Yankees. Just random team examples, nothing specifically about that. But it creates a system of uncertainty that I think overall will be better for the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think the other really interesting thing that you brought up that I feel, and I wasn't thinking about it, but college baseball as a whole, to me, last year won me over. Last year, what happened in college baseball with the Vandy boys, with Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter, I was glued to watching Jack Leiter's stats. Like when Jack Leiter pitched, I was watching his highlights every game. Like it was awesome. The dude could pitch. And it got me invested in the draft. I loved the draft last year. And I committed myself in June of last year. Was it June or July? Whenever the draft
was in July. They pushed it. They pushed it
to the All-Star
game.
game.
For the All-Star
That's
game,
right. Which is a fantastic idea, by the way.
No, absolutely, especially with the system that they're creating.
Yeah. Ooh, it is going to be such a doozy. I decided at that point in July that I was going to pay attention to college baseball in the upcoming year, not even knowing that this was going to be happening at the time with the lottery. But like I've fully committed. I've already downloaded all the apps I possibly can to follow college baseball. I follow places on Instagram with their notifications on. Like college baseball it starts a week from tomorrow. I'm excited. But the pipeline and the talent is also getting better at that level too, which we are seeing. with technology. We're starting to see now the kids in college are the kids that were given this technology when they were in middle school and high school in those really important years. And that's why we're also going to see a serious increase in talent in the college level, where college players, and we've seen it over the last few years, but last year it was when it really became obvious. College baseball is becoming very much like Major League Baseball. And that also adds on to your point that we're going to see these players in the major leagues a little bit quicker. Not just because of the lottery and because of when they're drafted, but because they're just better entering Major League Baseball. I mean, Jack Leiter is probably going to pitch in 2024. I mean, in the major league level, if not the end of 2023. He's that, like, he probably could have pitched in the major leagues last year. He was that good. And I like that. I think that's really good for baseball.
It creates a new way of viewing too, because now all of a sudden AAA, they're extending that season. I think part of that was just in fear that, hey, if this lockout goes any longer, we're going to have to put something on MLB Network. We can throw on the AAA baseball instead, just to, because that those issues are going to be over when this is all said and done. Nothing will change for minor league baseball, and that will be a serious problem.
Yeah.
At the end of all this. But it's great for the owners, this college system too, because now they don't have to pay for it. And I think that's kind of what they were pushing for too. Because, we've seen this since really 2000. It went from being 50 rounds to 40 and then just 10 last year. It changes the dynamic too of just the amount of power owners have, because they don't need to fill in all these extra just spots from their peak all the way down to rookie ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we're going to see baseball take a turn, kind of like the NBA, where eventually I think college baseball is going to be the next step before you reach the majors. Where, I mean, does the NBA even have like a minor league? I know they do.
They do. Small. It's the G. Yeah, they don't really, and not every team has their own team either.
Really?
Yeah, some teams will share.
Wow.
Which Major League Baseball used to do that too.
Yeah.
But
like the fall league is, kind of like that.
Yeah, and I think the A's and the Blue Jays at one point shared, where they much lower level, where they would just put guys in together and just let them play together, which isn't a bad thing at all.
No, it definitely increases competition, but I mean MLB, they're really the only ones in all of sports that have this kind of minor league format, because there's so much talent, and it's almost like it. I don't want to say it keeps people's hopes up a little longer than it should, but a guy that's playing in single A or double A for more than like 2 or 3 years is probably going to be there for a while. Where in the NBA, if you're not put in the NBA right out of the draft, there's a very good chance you're probably never going to get that chance. And it kind of makes them realize a little sooner that, well, unlike with baseball players, so they maybe realize at 30 that they have to go get another job, maybe in these other sports a little younger.
I think the NBA, though, is kind of almost starting to have the opposite problem where they're getting guys too soon. Like, look at Josh Christopher. He went 24th overall in this past draft with the Rockets, former Sun Devil. He's barely playing basketball. He's sitting on the bench the majority of the time. And if you don't think that's not going to stunt his overall growth, then you just don't understand what playing every day actually means to somebody. So just overall, just getting guys more opportunities at different levels of schools. And another side of this that will really benefit are JUCOs.
Yeah.
Because they will have to take in more guys now, and it'll be of higher talent because all these other D1 guys that maybe would have signed with the draft instead are now going to go and play college baseball.
Yeah, and the other thing is that high school players' talent is also skyrocketing. I mean, we're seeing guys in high school that are tossing 99. It's incredible. I mean, I'd say honestly right now, the way high school is today is kind of what college was 10 years ago in terms of talent level. Obviously, not every high school is the same, but there are some people in high school that are just monsters that could probably – I mean, look at Jason Dominguez. The dude just turned 19, and he probably could play in the major leagues right now. I mean, he's spectacular. And that's what we're seeing developing a lot, not just in the United States, but across the world. And it's going to make – the draft even more interesting as you go along, added into this.
Japan's a really great example of high school baseball really being at the forefront. Shohei Ohtani, was a huge high school star before he even got into professional baseball.
I didn't know that.
So it's interesting looking at the world game too and how it's affected. I think minor league baseball at its lowest level will never go away just because of what Major League Baseball has done with the Dominican Republic. You will always need to have the Arizona League and some level of low A, especially for those last 15 rounds where you got guys that you're taking a risk on,
Yeah.
but aren't like surefire. We'll send you to double A off the bat. We'll send you to triple A off the bat. I will miss though the occasional guy that gets drafted that, they're like, we'll draft you because you're a friend of the family
Yeah.
or something like that, right? And then they go out there and they play fantastic.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're a huge baseball star.
Right. Or you get the I'm trying to pull it up really quickly. I don't think I will in time. This is always where I go. Typed it in wrong. Oh, come on, hurry up.
And I think one guy, like, there's only one baseball player left that was drafted in the 50th round, and that was Jerrod Dyson.
Really? Wow.
He was, by the Kansas City Royals. And that was more so because of a steroid scandal with him.
Oh, interesting.
But there's just like the low-level talent guys. At this point, you're taking booms or busts versus projects, which it's a different way to play the sport.
Yeah, it really is. And it also makes you, instead of saying like, well, we have 50 guys that we want to get, it doesn't really matter, because no one else is going to take them. Now you've got to really focus on those 20 picks because you might be missing. So in the past, anyone that was good was drafted. Like there was very rarely, there were obviously the undrafted ones, like TJ Rivera came out of the Mets system and wasn't drafted. But there are not many people these days that weren't drafted. If you were in the 40 rounds, if you were good. But now there are probably going to be more people that haven't been drafted because there's just that one guy that got overlooked and then ends up performing really well in independent ball and then gets to play in the majors. But I also look at Seth Lugo. Seth Lugo was drafted in the 34th round. He wouldn't be drafted today. And he is one of the best relievers in baseball. Obviously, that's, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he's a really good player. He's in the top half of relievers in the game. And
easily,
and he wouldn't have been chosen in the draft. And that adds just the draft itself. I'm really intrigued to see if they change it even further from the 20 rounds this year, because obviously they did that because of COVID. But now they're basically, this is a thing I think they're going to just rework the draft completely and say like, well, let's do 25 rounds or whatever. Who knows? And that's going to come out more as we start to learn more. But getting to the lottery system itself, the thing for those that don't understand, and anyone that's watching the show probably does, other than the people that I send the link to that don't really know baseball, they just watch it because of me. The lottery system is, it's more of, it's a random way to pick out who gets draft picks. Because now it just goes, if you finish 30th, you have the number one pick. But with the lottery, it's going to be the way that they had rumored it was going to be was picks 1 through 10 are going to go to random, or even, I think it might even be 1 through 20. I think it's, if you didn't make the playoffs, it's completely random for, I don't know, obviously they'll come out with more details, but if you finish last, you're not getting the first pick. That's the moral of the story. It prevents teams from purposely finishing lower. And I'll find myself, even in the past couple of years, I'm cheering for the Mets to do worse. When I know they're not making the playoffs, like, ooh, let's do bad so we can get a top 10 pick. Like in 2020, they were doing pretty well, but then they had a real big rut at the end of the season and got the number 10 pick. Well, they ended up wasting it. They still got the number 10 pick. And I was like, this is great. They got the 10 pick because they lost their last 5 games. This is awesome. And then you have the situation of the D-backs this year where they should have had the number 1 pick from being the worst team in baseball all year, and they walk it off on a 5-run comeback in the bottom of the 9th inning. And it's like, it's funny.
The ironic part, too, is that the 2 pick historically this past decade has been more successful than the first overall pick. So we'll see what Arizona does with that. I think the last piece missing to this to really make the draft interesting is being able to trade draft picks.
Yep, that's what I want. Yes, I wanted to talk about.
Because not only will it create suspense for the viewer, but overall it will help speed up rebuilds. If a team has a good guy and they want to get rid of it, they can draft an extra 15 people and start their process and kickstart that, and they can be good to go in 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
Like the White Sox, what they pretty much did without really doing. Yeah. Versus, what the Cubs had to go through, the Astros had to go through.
Yeah.
What the Pirates have continuously gone through.
Yeah. And I love the thought of trading for draft picks because to me, trading for draft picks it's like another trade deadline. And I love that because 9 times out of 10, you're trading good players. like we saw today in the NBA. Obviously, this isn't an NBA show, but the Nets traded James Harden to the 76ers, and they got 2 first-rounders back for that. Like, I don't know if baseball is going to follow the same route as the NFL or the NBA, where they say, like, well, we're going to just get you 2 first-rounders, or if they're going to say, I'll trade you for the number 5 pick. But it's interesting.
Part of that's a contract thing too. There's rules in the NBA about having to match salary when you do trades to really stop teams from, overall like if let's say the Nets had like a 5-45 record right now and they just wanted to completely dump the bucket down on the salary, trade away like a guy in the G League for James Harden and that's it. Like that's not how that would work.
Right. Like,
which is a good system too, because that's another way to keep teams from tanking.
Yeah, it's preventing the Giancarlo Stanton trade from happening, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's and so the thing with that is obviously, the NBA is a different thing, but we see it a lot in the NFL where, and in the NBA too, but where it's draft day. And you see teams, I believe it's in the NFL. I don't pay attention much to it. I know in the NBA.
I think the thing about the NFL versus Major League Baseball is it's like when you see those later round draft trades where they're going to get in linemen, getting more specialty positions.
Yeah.
Versus, like the Jaguars going for Trevor Lawrence because that's like, that is a game changer. Like, even in football, I would argue that quarterbacks have a greater effect on the game than any baseball player does.
I completely agree, yeah.
In a single moment. So but to your point, it is, like trading for a lineman, trading for something very particular.
Well, and that would have to be something that they, I don't know what's going on with my phlegm today. It's something they have to work out and figure out. Are they going to have it where you can trade in any round for a pick, or is it just your first round that you can swap picks? Or you can make a trade where you add draft picks like compensation pick. They're getting rid of the compensation round, but maybe that's because you're going to be able to trade for a draft pick and get an extra pick in the first round for that.
And they're only getting rid of it for signees, not for the financial equivalence level stuff. Because like the Diamondbacks they received a draft pick from the St. Louis Cardinals in the Paul Goldschmidt trade.
Oh, wow.
Which is, those compensation picks you can get rid of. And I do like that idea too, where it's like an extra trading chip for a low budget team like the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right, exactly. And that's where you'll see teams like the Rays probably really capitalize because again, obviously we have no idea what they're going to be doing when it comes to trading, if they're even going to allow trading of draft picks. But let's say you can trade for the number 1 pick. Let's say the Cardinals have the number 1 pick. Cardinals have the number 1 pick. And the Rays have the number 18 pick. And they're like, I really want that number 1 pick. Obviously, you're going to have to trade a lot of players for that. The Rays would probably be willing to trade, I don't know, some really great guys to the Cardinals to get that number 1 pick. Obviously, it's a lot less likely 18-1. That's just my example. But certain teams might be more likely to trade up than others because they have less to lose. Or they just do better in the draft. Or, the Rays also... The Rays are a bad example because the Rays can get someone from the 18th round.
It'd be the flip side of it. It'd be like the Rays trading away the 1 pick for the 18th pick.
Right.
A guy that's fantastic.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they would do that. And that's also another thing with it because let's say the D-backs or a team that's good, like let's say right now, if they implemented this, I don't know if this is going to go into play next year, but let's say the Mets get themselves the number 1 pick in the draft through the lottery. They already have a really good team. Let's say, I don't know, a team that's good but isn't going to win, like maybe the Indians or something, Guardians. I'm so not used to that yet. The Guardians have the number 19 pick. They really want that number 1 pick, and they're willing to make trades for it. The Mets may say, hey, I'll give you the number 1 pick. And then they get more players that'll get themselves in a good position because they can say, hey, let's get major league talent for these guys for a draft pick. We don't need this number 1 pick. You do. So give us major league talent to help us now. And then we'll take your draft pick. It's so exciting.
You could even see, AA guys going. Because let's say Arizona, builds up a pretty good core of young guys this next year. And then the following year, they're still building. They're going to be in the top 10 draft picks again.
Right,
exactly. they will be one of the 10 worst teams in baseball.
Well, we don't know though because we don't know what the lottery's going to look like. Who knows?
In theory, though,
they'll be in that 20 of non-postseason teams.
Yes, they will be. That's yeah, exactly. So they'll be in that 10 though, but all their guys, have advanced to AA,
right?
That they really like, and they want to keep building that core of guys. Well, now I can trade away. A team with a really good AA team would be Padres. Padres have a really low.
Padres have everything great, yeah.
Like the Diamondbacks and Padres. They make inter-division deals all the time. They could be like, give me 4 guys from AA, and we'll give you a way for you to restart and rebuild that way too.
Yeah, right. It adds just a completely new level to baseball, and I love it. It's going to make it so exciting. Draft day. I'm already stoked for draft day, but for the possibility, even just the thought, it might not even happen, but the thought of trading draft picks is it's thrilling. And the lottery itself is going to be great because a team that finished 11th and is never the Mets are probably never going to have the number 1 pick again if they had the regular draft the way it is, because there is no chance that the Mets and Steve Cohen ever let themselves fall to the worst team in baseball. This gives them a chance. You have an off year. Let's say you finish 13th. You can get the number 1 pick. It's awesome. I love it. The randomness to it too. It's too bad Nick and Ryan aren't here and I'll let you know, I have an obsession with random generators. And I think I said it last week. Everything I do is to random generators. This is in my wheelhouse here. So yeah, it's thrilling. Look at that. We spent 20 minutes talking about just the draft because it's the future of baseball, literally.
And it's a great way to also look at the past of baseball too.
Yeah.
You already saw it last year. It was an event last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like this weird thing in a room and in a studio somewhere.
Yep.
And it wasn't as much as I thought. MLB Network and ESPN did a much better job this year of doing it than they ever had before. And just they got to keep bringing on guys like Ken Griffey Jr.
Yep.
Big star guys, just something to get people pumped, and it gets young and old people excited about that stuff too.
Yeah, it's too bad for me because I was working that day. I was really disappointed I didn't get to watch. I'd taken All-Star weekend off, but I missed out on the draft day, and I really was disappointed about that because it was the first time I was ever really excited for a draft. And I was walking around the store, and I was like, oh my God, Kumar Rocker hasn't been chosen yet. We're at the 8th pick. And I went into the draft praying that the Mets got Rocker. Obviously, now here we are later.
Yeah.
They got him, and then now he's not even on the team anymore. But at the time, I was stoked. And, to have it, other sports have their draft as the show. Everyone, when it's NBA draft day and NFL draft day, it's an event. It's like you go over to people's houses to watch the draft. Baseball, no one cares. It's the draft happened today? Who did we get? And then even at that, it's well, who's that? It's their first rounder, but it doesn't matter. You don't know who he is. And that goes, again, back to what we were saying before, that college, it's going to be people that we know now. And, this year, Andrew Jones' son is probably going to be the number 1 pick, if not the number 2 pick, because he's been fantastic. I forgot his first name. But I don't know. I love the draft. I'm a big draft guy now. It's my thing. So the other thing they talked about today is Rob Manfred said that MLB has agreed to the universal DH. And I think that is – I don't know what you think on that. I'm a fan of the universal DH, but I'll let you start it off with your thoughts on it.
I like it that there were 2 ways to play baseball before. And I think that's something – it's like how you go to every different park and it plays a little differently. I think that what the universal DH does – and this is something Major League Baseball is really going to have to reconsider now, is it doesn't give the American League and the National League an identity.
No, it doesn't.
Until 2001, they were literally 2 separate entities that agreed to play together.
Mm-hmm. And didn't even play each other except for the World Series.
Now, it's all one, and this is something you saw with the NBA and the ABA back in the 70s,
yes.
And the AFL and the NFL back in the 70s, and the
good old
hockey version of the NHL and the world the WHL back in the 70s. Because when you look at it, all this really does kind of rhyme with what happened back then.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is just going through it later, which is crazy to think about because it's nearly twice as old.
Yeah, than any other sport.
But
Which shows you how great we've been so far.
I'm excited. I'm excited because hopefully this means that every team will play every team at some point during the year. They need to reconstruct the schedule now because of this, in my opinion.
I would love that. I think that'll, but the problem is it also takes away from divisional play. And
Well, you also should. I think this is the beginning of the restructuring. This is what they needed to do to add 2 teams and add a new format, because 32 teams, 154 games works out perfectly when you do the math. Like it works out perfectly with the amount of divisional games and then playing every team in 2 or 3 game sets. It just works better that way, and it's the beginning of that, which is the best part.
Yeah, and I think I never even thought of it that way, but it's true. I mean, you look at, for me, I look at the NBA and the NFL, and while yes, they're in different leagues, the 2 teams. Is that a vacuum cleaner?
I clean it up. You know what?
I'm shocked we can hear that.
It's the cleanest college radio station in America.
Wow, that's really
Blaze Radio, folks.
Wow, that vacuum. Goodness gracious. I hear it through the headphones and through closed doors.
This mic has been pretty hot. I feel like I've been kind of loud the entire time.
Yeah, you have, and it's at the same level as mine too. Like, well, that's why I had to turn it off when you're taking your jacket off, because I was like this. I'm hearing the jacket louder than me. It's okay. Back to
yeah.
So, what was I next? I know I was talking about the DH, but I had something. Oh, in the NFL and the NBA, you don't really realize. Like, yes, they're 2 different leagues. It's the different conferences, but you don't really notice. Like, no, you can't really tell. I don't pay attention enough to basketball or football to really know how the scheduling works. But
no, you're right on the money. It's the only sport, including soccer.
Really?
It's the only sport that has like identifiable, like these teams only play each other and these teams only play each other. Every other sport, every other professional sport, everybody plays everybody.
Wow, that's really interesting. I would love that, because I'm one where, I mean, I use the Mets as an example. The Mets have not played Mike Trout in like 6 years. And there's a chance that you miss great players because they get traded or something. I mean, I remember I had someone in my head, I can't think of him, but I remember there was a time where there was a guy who was really good, and it turned out that he was playing the Mets for like the first time. He was a longtime veteran, and he was fantastic. And it was the first time they'd ever played him, and he was like about to retire. It's weird, and being able to play every team every year guarantees you that you will see everybody, which I like. I think that's a great thing. I think it's great for baseball, because this way you also increase revenue, because fans of those teams will come in every year too. And I think that's a really good thing. So my thoughts on the universal DH. I wasn't the biggest fan of it until 2020. I was so anti-universal DH. Then 2020 happened, and everyone had a universal DH, and I thought it was fantastic. It played better. It was a more offensive game, and I like that. And you also could see pitchers staying in longer, and I also like that. It took out the need for it. Max Scherzer's tossing a fantastic game. It's the bottom of the 6th inning. He's throwing a 1-hit shutout, but it's a 1-0 game. You've got the bases loaded and Scherzer's up with 2 outs. You're going to pinch it. That vacuum is so loud. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, it also creates a situation like game 1 of the year when the Yankees and the Nationals played each other. Mm-hmm. And that situation was Scherzer, not Strasburg, that was pitching.
Correct. Yeah, it was Scherzer.
Scherzer stayed in too long because of the DH too, which creates more offense in that situation.
Yeah, which I'm a fan of. I'm a guy who, if the game isn't 1-0, I would like it to be 10-9. Like, I love those games. I'm a big
lot.
fan
That's
of that.
a lot. That's a long game too. That doesn't help speed up the game. That doesn't help.
I can sit through a 5-hour game and be a happy camper. I've done it before. I watch every single Mets game in full, if I can, the whole year. I'm just that guy. I love watching baseball. But so getting back to what I was saying, I was sold on the DH after 2020, but I was like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. 2021 is what made me say we need the DH we can't have baseball without it. And the only reason that he's over here now, the only reason that is because of Jacob Degrom. Him hitting this year cost him the best season from a pitcher ever. And that's the only reason. If he didn't hit this year, he would not have had any problems.
Well,
he would not have had
that's a
nearly as
straw man
many
argument,
problems.
yeah.
His first injury this year came from hitting, and he rushed back because he needed to pitch, and he hurt something else, and it was a chain reaction. Once, and I say this to anybody that is against the DH. Once you see your best pitcher that thank goodness, that you need to be out there and it impacts your season because he got hurt because of hitting, that's when I was like, that's it. Like the Mets would have been in the playoffs if Jacob Degrom didn't hit this year. It's plain and simple. And that's what bothers me. And that's what made me realize, because when he was going good, the Mets were 45-25. When he was hurt, or whatever, when he was pitching, they were 45-35, not 25, 45-35. After he got hurt, that's when they dropped down to 10 games under 500 for the rest of the year. They ended up, the record with him was 10 games over. The record without him was 20 games under. And it was immediate. And that's when it's like, it's not, obviously not everyone's Jacob Degrom. Jacob Degrom's a very rare occurrence where he goes out there and pitches every 5 days. It's a win. But 95% of the time.
It's an 8-9 season and Cy Young.
Exactly. But that's from the past.
Yeah.
But what he was doing this year, him having to hit, stripped us. And it's not just Mets fans. It's baseball. And that's why I said us. Stripped everyone in baseball from witnessing the best season from a pitcher ever. And that's why I can no longer support not having a DH in baseball. That's just the way it is.
I hope they bring back 200 inning guys then because of this. That's
I
what
agree,
I really
and
hope.
I think it will happen.
If that's the game changer there, I'll happily take it.
I think it will.
Because when you think about it, pitchers are like the basketball players of Major League Baseball. They are the actual draw to the sport. Because most teams don't have a Mike Trout. Most teams don't have that guy. Like Dodgers aren't, or they're like the Dodgers and they have every guy. But it's the guy that on the marquee when you go, it says the teams that are playing and the pitchers that are pitching and the time of the game.
Yep.
So pitchers kind of getting this is the right move, really, because it keeps them like your Jacob Degrom situation, stars of the game.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because I love watching pitchers hit when they hit well. It's fun. It's certainly amusing. But then you have the other side where you're only getting, like how many times a year does a pitcher homer? It's like 6.
Well, those 6 moments.
But
or like top 20
but
moments.
But even at that, this year, it wasn't even that big of a deal. It really wasn't. In past years, like maybe 2017, I could have told you everyone who homered in the season that was a pitcher. Because it got that kind of recognition. But this year, it just kind of lost that. And it wasn't just for me, it was for everyone. It wasn't making the highlight reels. I also think on top of that, that's partially because Shohei Ohtani was doing everything and he was getting highlights every day. So those things were pushed to the bottom. But it kind of, and I think it might have been Major League Baseball's effort to say, well, this is going to be going away anyway, so let's kind of ease it out. But it's just, for me, while yes, everyone's argument is, well, it takes the strategy out of baseball, but it's going to make for a more competitive baseball and going to make for a more natural baseball, where a pitcher that's out there pitching is going to get the 9th inning. We're going to see more complete games this year. We're going to see more. We might even see more no-hitters. We might see more shutouts. We're going to see 200-inning guys. We might even see a 300-inning guy. It might not happen this year, but in a couple of years, when pitchers are used to that, because obviously who knows what's going to happen this year. But the last 2 years have been really hard on pitchers. It's going to take a few years, but it's going to happen. We're going to have those guys that are workhorses, and it's also going to bring back the need for those guys that can just go out there every 5 days. Like a Rich Hill, who can give you 6 innings because it doesn't matter when he has to come out. You can push him the extra inning because he doesn't need to hit. It's just, I don't know. Any closing thoughts you've got on the universal DH?
I think the perfect example of the situation and the guy that encompasses both sides of this argument, Zach Greinke.
Yes, and Bumgarner too.
But Zach Greinke in 2016 also got hurt because he was hitting.
Right.
And that was a season where the Diamondbacks were supposed to be serious contenders, right? Like they were a team that was pushing. And Zach Greinke got hurt, and that's really when everything truly fell apart for Arizona, was when Greinke was out. And the rest of the pitching staff didn't have anyone to really go to in that situation.
Yeah. So yes,
but we also don't see Zach Greinke anymore hit, which is a true shame, because I think he was a stolen base or a home run away from being the first guy since like 1906 to do that.
Yeah,
which was crazy. That's crazy to think about too.
Well, see, I wonder if we'll see more of the situation like we had where Madison Bumgarner was his own DH in a game in Oakland. I'd be intrigued to see if that happens. I don't think it will, but it might happen like once a year, because a guy like Bumgarner loves to hit. I guarantee you, a guy like Bumgarner, or even a guy like Greinke lives for that chance to hit in those few National League games he plays. I wouldn't be shocked to say, I really want to hit. Like, we don't have anything to lose. Let me hit today. And I think that'd be a really fun thing for baseball. And it makes it also, that raises now the eyeballs on that game saying, oh my God, Zach Greinke's hitting today. Like, this is going to be great.
Or it's going to be 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts.
Doesn't matter. Still, you're going to sell tickets to that game. Because it's like, oh my God, Madison Bumgarner's getting the hit today. He's going to strike out all 3 times, but there's a chance that Madison Bumgarner hits a home run. Oh my God. And that'll also bring back the special feeling of, obviously assuming it happens, but of like, oh my God, pitchers are hitting home runs. This is the coolest thing in baseball.
I wonder what's the one player that I'm fascinated to see what happens with this Michael Lorenzen.
Yeah, that's true. I think the only thing with that is I think he hasn't played much in the last couple of years, and when he had, because of injuries, and when he hasn't gone out in the field.
He looked really good in center field though when he was playing center field.
He did. He was really fun. And that's
a good ball player.
To me, that's kind of a Shohei Ohtani situation where if they're good enough to play in the field and hit, they're going to hit. Like, they'll put him out there, they'll make it happen. But they're not going to. I don't know. I don't think they're. Who knows? I really don't know.
Find out, and hopefully
we will.
2 months, right? A month and a half.
We hope.
A month and a half.
Well, hopefully we find out before then, because that means that it's resolved and we all know the rules. We're going to be giving you all the lockout coverage here on the show, because it's great. Lockout stuff is interesting, and as we hear more, I'm glad that we got this news today, because we're the first baseball. Well, we might be the only baseball show on Blaze at this point. I'm sure there's other ones, but
there's a few more.
Well, yeah, we're the veteran baseball show on Blaze at this point. Or at least the veteran show on Blaze that only covers baseball, especially because Kayla and Egan are not here, so your show is not. So ours is the only one that's been here the whole time. So I'm happy that we got to cover this today. I think, to me, it makes me happy to know that we're the ones that got to really talk about it. And even in general, we would have anyway. But so let's get into your segment, shall we? So I gave Spencer a segment idea. I don't remember how it came up. I was just walking along someday, and I was thinking, I thought of that. You might
not the random generator didn't just pull it
no,
up.
It didn't.
Nope.
No, you might remember, and I don't think the viewers will, because our average viewer age is probably like 45. But there's a game on Google. It's called the Under Over game, where it shows you 2 Google searches. Let's say it's, I don't know, prosthetic leg and Japan. And you have to pick whether you think it'll show you one of the, like, Japan's, well, the prosthetic leg was first. So the prosthetic leg's total view count per year versus Japan, but it doesn't tell you how many Japan has. You have to guess whether Japan has more or less views in a year. That's where this game started from. I was just thinking of that game. I was like, we should do that in baseball. Like, give a player stats. Say Adrian Beltre, 400 home runs, or say Adrian Beltre and Michael Young, who has more home runs. But obviously it's going to be things that are closer, like saying, Michael Young. I don't know. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that's got really close, but that's what you're here for. So let's do it. I'm excited. It's just me today, but I like the challenge. I think it's good. It'll make me think a little more because I don't have to worry about Ryan or Nick trying to beat me to it.
I think you'll like this one. I got an easier one to start off with here. Well, maybe it's easy. It might be really tricky.
If it's the Mets, it's probably I'm gonna. Oh man, it's always tough when people give me Mets stuff because they expect me to know it.
Okay.
And then if I screw up, then my head's up. Like last week when Gary was talking about the World Series and he said about the flash of Red Sox win the World Series. I'm like, I don't even know much of what happened in Game 7. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed having Gary Thorne on my show, and I don't even know what happened in Game 7 of the World Series when the Mets literally won the World Series.
At least you don't have to know it. At least you didn't live through it and you don't know it. At least
that's
one
true.
Of those situations where you're like, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I should though. To be fair, if I call myself a Mets fan. But go ahead. I'm really excited.
All right, first question: who had more career hits?
Oh, great.
Mark Grace or Mickey Mantle?
Well, Mickey Mantle.
That is wrong.
Really?
Mark Grace had more hits.
Wow.
Did you know that Mark Grace and Pete Rose are the only two hitters to lead a decade in hitting and not be in the Hall of Fame?
Wow.
Mark Grace had the most hits in the 1990s. He only played for 12 years.
Well, yeah.
But in the night, literally from 1990 to 99, led all of baseball in hits.
See, that's a funny thing, and I'm sure there's probably more of those guys at home runs because you see, let's say someone's brought up in 2000 and they retire after 2010. They're probably not going to make the Hall of Fame, but they might have had 1,700 hits or 2,000 hits, which might be more than anyone else had in that time. But all right, I like that. That's good. I'm intrigued to see also where you go with it because it doesn't just have to be stats. It doesn't just have to be like hits or home runs. It could be
It could be just hits and home runs.
It could be, but I'm saying in the future, you can always say
don't worry. I have a couple ones that are a little bit different.
Well, yeah, like a random one would be like, who had more years in the American League, Alex Rodriguez or I don't know, like something like that. Like
Alex Rodriguez.
Like things like that. Like
yeah.
Like I'm intrigued to see because obviously this is your segment. You're gonna find things out like that that'll be cool to do.
I'll figure out some goofy things.
Yeah,
I had one goofy thing to start with.
Okay, good.
All right, more career home runs. Did Bryce Harper, is he over or under JD Martinez?
Oh gosh, over under JD Martinez. See, now I feel like some of these questions are gonna do them and try to trick us. Is the obvious answer should be Bryce Harper, but I feel like you would do JD Martinez because you would have more. No one would think that. But what if that's just a trick?
It's like the Princess Bride clip.
Yeah.
Where you are an educated gentleman.
Yeah. I'm going to go Bryce Harper because I just feel like it's my gut instinct, but I'm probably going to be wrong.
You are wrong.
I acknowledge that. Okay.
But the difference is only by 3, and they technically place one behind each other. Wow. JD Martinez is 210. Bryce Harper, 207.
And JD Martinez won't be in the Hall of Fame, and Bryce Harper will. That's fascinating.
Well, Bryce Harper also has 15 more years left in baseball.
I know.
Including his peak years.
Bryce Harper also started before JD Martinez.
And JD Martinez has probably got 3 more years in baseball.
Right. Well, he started when he was older.
Yeah.
But I like that one. That's
all
a
right.
good one.
All right. Who struck out more in 2018?
Yes. See, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Marwin Gonzalez or David Peralta?
Oh, yes. Marwin Gonzalez. Didn't he lead the league in strikeouts that year or something?
He did not.
Why did David Peralta lead the league?
No, he did not. David Peralta had 59 strikeouts. Marwin Gonzalez had 26.
What?
Or 56, my bad. 56, not 26, but 56 and 57, or 56 and 59.
Wow, that's a good one. I think there was a year that Marwin Gonzalez led the majors in
I would believe that, yeah.
Strikeouts, and that's why I got confused. Wow. See, that's the kind of question I'm looking for. Obviously, right. I like all of them.
You ready for this one? This one's kind of an ode to the past way baseball was played.
Okay.
Who had a higher average, minimum 50 at-bats in 2021? Zach Wheeler or Aaron Nola?
Oh, this is a good one. Now, see, I watched them both. And now, also, when everyone's here, what we're going to do is we're going to each lock in answers. It'll like
Okay.
say like over under or
I
whatever.
figured
the
it's just
answer
the
is.
two of us. I can give you the
Yeah,
two.
I
And
know.
you
I'm
do
just
that.
saying. I'm saying in general, what we're going to do just for future is we'll do that, and then this way we'll be able to be like, "Ooh, well, you were wrong."
Yeah,
I like
really
that. Obviously, for me,
take someone.
it's different. All right. See, Zach Wheeler, I know is a fantastic hitter. I'm going with Zach Wheeler.
Zach Wheeler? Is that your final?
Yes, it is.
It was Aaron Nola.
No way.
Yeah.
What was his batting average?
He ranked overall at 143 to Zach Wheeler's 162.
Wait, doesn't that make Zach Wheeler have a higher batting average? Oh,
No,
they're
no,
ranking.
ranking.
Sorry.
Ranking.
I thought you was reading off their batting average.
Big time, right? No.
Okay.
All right. Higher Hall of Fame percentage.
Oh, yes! You are nailing these. Yes.
Greg Maddux or Randy Johnson.
Oh, wow. That's a doozy. Oh, my goodness.
If you need to take a moment to think about it,
Oh, I
take
am.
your moment.
Oh, man. That's a doozy of a question. Holy cow.
I will say something I learned from this was just how different voting's gotten in the last
See, I was going to say
12
that.
years than before that, which is kind of it's wild. I mean, it really is.
Obviously, don't have it written down, but I'm intrigued to see. I don't know which one got voted in first. I assume it's Maddox.
It was.
Yeah. It wasn't by
not
much.
by a lot though. It was only by a year or two.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it would be very different. It would be an easy answer if Maddox was voted in '99 and Randy Johnson was 2012. But wow, I'm gonna say Randy Johnson. I haven't gotten anything right so far.
And you finally got one right.
Yes.
There you go.
See, I love Greg Maddux. He's my favorite baseball pitcher of all time. But Randy Johnson gets so much hype, and a lot of people view him as a better pitcher.
I would like to point out though that it was only 1 year. The difference between
really?
these two. It was 2014 and 2015.
Wow.
Greg Maddux finished with a 97.2% on the ballot.
Wow.
Randy Johnson, 97.3.
Yeah.
So this one was a sport of inches.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Who was caught stealing more in 2021? I didn't put down a year for this one. This one's on me. Who do you think will get caught stealing more, Gleyber Torres or Jazz Chisholm Jr.? I don't know the year, but you can just guess between those two.
Well,
it
has to be 2021 because Jazz Chisholm got called up this year. So that's why you didn't put a year. You knew when you were looking at it, saying, well, there was no one.
Yeah.
Jazz Chisholm stole a lot of bases, and I know the Mets threw him out a lot, but Gleyber Torres, I remember this year at a span where he was like not getting anything. I'm going Gleyber Torres.
It was Chisholm.
Dang it. What was the difference?
8-6. So not too much. Like I tried to keep it close for these, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's the best part. And see, I'd also be intrigued to look at because I'm sure Chisholm stole more bases as a whole, but it's the caught stealing that matter. Oh wow, that's a good one. I'm really doing bad at this game.
Who was the all-time Fangraphs clutch leader? Tony Gwynn or Pete Rose?
Clutch.
Clutch
is very
different. It's a mathematical equation actually.
Yeah, I love the clutch stat. It's it's a very good one.
Daniel Descalso led in the 2010s.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's actually. I think I actually knew something like that.
I made a whole video about it for 306.
Did you? That's hilarious. Clutch. Tony Gwynn.
You are right. There you go. You're on a bit of you've gotten 2 right so far. Only 2. Only 2 so far, but 2's pretty good.
Well, we look for the 2 out of 3 in the last 3 that makes me feel better.
All right, this one might be the easiest one, but it also might be the biggest mind bender too.
Mm-hmm.
Higher WAR in 2011, Miguel Montero or Jimmy Rollins?
That is a mind bender. So
2011.
Right. That's. Oh man. See, now where you really could get me is if Jimmy Rollins had an injury that year and Miguel Montero played more games, which is why it's a mind bender.
Higher WAR though.
I know, but if he played, let's say Jimmy Rollins only played 30 games and Miguel Montero played 130, his WAR is going to be higher. I got to end the show, so I got to get one. I got to pick one. I feel like I feel like you're gonna do the same thing you did with JD Martinez and Bryce Harper, but I'm going with Jimmy Rollins.
It was Miguel Montero,
Oh my
5.9
gosh.
to 3.6.
So,
Final question here, and this is, I think, what you were looking for. Who has more movie credits?
yes, this is perfect.
Derek Jeter or Babe Ruth?
Babe Ruth,
Yes.
because wasn't he an actor too at some point?
He did a little bit of acting work. 10 movies to 4.
Wow.
And then, okay, last one here since you got that one so quickly.
Yeah, we've got
Higher field percentage in 1999, Tony Womack or Pokey Reese?
I only know Tony Womack's name, so I'll go with Tony Womack.
You are right.
Yay!
0.992 to 0.991.
All right, I'll take those 4 correct and run with them. Well, our coattails are here, so that is the end of our show this week on Blaze Spencer. It was a blast, just the two of us. I enjoyed it. It's always fun every once in a while to just have one-on-one action. It definitely changes up the pace, so I appreciate it. It was a great one with you. Baseball, well, we got a little bit of news today, so that was exciting. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week, maybe with a full cast. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe it'll just be Spencer and I again. Maybe it'll just be me one of these days. We've never had a show where it's just me since we've started. So
I will let that happen.
okay, well, good. Well, thank you guys so much for watching.